This week on New Music Fridays, got Masego, Garden Party featuring Big Boy and Jed. Now this one got me hyped. Masego, being one of the new artists that I've been watching for quite some time because of the obvious quality that he brings to the table, he decided to document this one on Twitter, all starting with him telling us what his top 5 movies of all time are. Black Panther, Howl's Moving Castle, Fifth Element, Black Orpheus, and Idlewild. Very interesting top 5. Well, he needs to begin to watch some of Eddie Murphy's catalog. I mean, he was clearly one of the greatest filmmakers there ever was. Listen to these classics: Coming to America, Harlem Nights, Dolomite, which that one was recent, Life, and the list goes on. Some of these movies defined entire generations and paved the way for black filmmakers to make Idlewild. But Masego gained inspiration from Idlewild and reached out to Big Boy for collaboration. Being in the industry, he was able to make it happen. And now we get a chance to hear it. And honestly, with the skills on hand here, the bar must be set high. I'm expecting something to make my playlist here. Doesn't have to be classic, but it has to be a great representation of the caliber of acts here. Jed even adds a whole nother dimension to the song, so I have no clue what it could possibly sound like, but it should be dope. Yeah, this reminds me of why I wasn't the biggest fan of Idlewild the movie. Combining hip-hop with 1935 juke joint, soul, jazz, and funk music was super creative, but I never felt it worked. The same way how I felt Kendrick Lamar combining all of those styles to craft the Pimp a Butterfly was creative, but that didn't work either. It definitely feels authentic to the theme, so I give points. And I do recognize that this was a dream track for him, but this game is what have you done for me lately. Not all projects are for the consumption of other people, as this one will mean 10 times more to him than it will for anybody else. Sometimes our passion blinds us from the obviousness of the truth. Yes, this was Masego fulfilling his childhood dream, as he probably always wanted to be part of that movie in one way or the other, but you can't let that bring down the quality of music that you are releasing. This is why Motown would hold listening sessions for every song instead of just releasing everything that they make. Cordae, Super, a highly anticipated single from the upcoming album A Bird's Eye View. This comes equipped with a music video as an extremely talented Cordae is displaying that he's back. Since his debut, The Lost Boy, Cordae has been on the feature circuit, and some of these tracks I've made reviews for on this channel. Eminem's Killer Remix and Nas's Life is a Dice Game especially, and I haven't had a single bad thing to say about it. I have constantly come across him on the Spider-Man soundtrack, the Space Jam soundtrack, Godfather of Harlem soundtrack, and more. I've had nothing bad to say about anything that he's done. Keep in mind, he's never been the focal point of one of my reviews, but when a person is in this much demand, usually the skill level backs it up. I never got a chance to listen to The Lost Boy, but I hear nothing but good things. This track right here is honestly more of my introduction to Cordae as a solo act, and if his skills are as they say, I will be peeping his previous material, especially that R&P with Anderson .Paak. That song is definitely on the list. But what am I expecting here? I'm trying to keep an open mind, so no expectations. I just want to hear what Cordae can do, and I like it. The energy and production is solid. You can hear his lisp, but yet he put in the work to overcome that, as his fundamentals of delivery and flow is what could be seen as light years ahead of his peers. Now, in the grand scheme of music, and this is why I came into this with no expectations, I will have to listen to his last project, but you can tell he has something to offer to the craft. This song in particular just isn't it. This is an obvious single to announce his return, and it's better than what most commercial rappers do, but no substance. An example of someone who has done this historically, but better, would be Kanye West with Stronger. And it wouldn't shock me if that was the actual inspiration for this song. Yes, unfair because at that time Kanye was already established as one of the best in the game as we see it, and it was produced by Timbaland, but that's the quality that people should be striving to obtain though. And the hype behind Cordae would make you expect such, but it's all one step at a time. This was cool, but nothing that I would keep. The Alchemist, this thing of ours. Just judging by the title, we all know what to expect here, right? It's not like The Alchemist crafts the most unique productions. He is typically a sample-driven New York street-styled producer, and when he makes compilations, It's either you love it or you don't, because he's gonna give you pretty much the same song. As I said numerous times in the past, this only works if you are great at it, and many people will swear on the Bible that the Alchemist is. Personally, I feel the Alchemist has had his moments where his style displays greatness, like how All Glass off of Freddie Gibbs' Alfredo, where Gangsta Gibbs show you how to make a great song out of that grimy New York sound that people have been trying to do for ages but just never really had the skill set to do it. But then you have a long collection of the same song, just with Currency, the Griselda Boys, to Havoc of Mobb Deep. At the end of the day, this project will either be a hit or a complete whiff. And the Alchemists have crafted vastly more misses than there ever were of hits. So that's what I'm expecting to a degree here as I look at the features. I'm only really excited for the Vince Staples joint here, but we shall see how this goes. This project doesn't start well. Having sample-based production is cool, but what takes it to a whole nother level is chopping it up properly and having the percussions to maintain the tempo and the overall feel of the track. That's the difference between the Alchemist and, say, Just Blaze. Not saying everyone should make beats like Just Blaze, but if you're going to do New York sample production, he is the gold standard. As none of these artists on this actually impresses me with the fundamental skill sets, except maybe Zalupa's on the Wild Style, but these joints are so short that you really can't gather a full understanding of his capabilities. 6'5" Heartbeats, disappointed, and that was Vince Staples' song. Overall, I must say that this was a waste of time because nothing here was impressive. The same style of beats, mostly the same style of rappers, very little intrigue or quality. At least it was brief, so that I can move on to the next quickly. I wouldn't say that it was terrible, it was just uneventful. And to keep it 100, that may be worse. At least terrible is remembered. N9ne, Asin9ne. The hardest working and most dynamic independent act is dropping his latest project, Asin9ne, and forgive me if that isn't the right pronunciation. N9ne's whole style is amazing. From a technical standpoint, his flow and delivery is always on point, and how he uses his voice as, say, an opera singer would, to separate himself from everyone, but also to have lyrics with a fast flow. The amount of work that it had to take to achieve this level was probably near impossible. And as the master of this technique, he approaches every beat as a craftsman of a Bushido blade would do, as he delivers unparalleled quality. Then he surrounds himself with some of the finest MCs I've ever came across on the underground. If there were anything that matches his actual skill set, it would be his recruiting and business organization that has maintained his independent label Strange Music over the years and kept his audience where most people would have lost interest by now. The problem, there comes a point that no matter how great you are, where people are used to you releasing music. You become too familiar, and even with you composing greatness, many of the songs will feel the same because they are coming from you. So what am I expecting here? Typical tech. Depending on if you are a fan or not, that can be a good thing or a bad thing. I love the mastery, but I also seek out the next sound. Too Good with Lil Wayne was solid. I was entertained by Clydesdale. Honestly, that's like the perfect use of an E40 feature to keep it 100. Still Right Here is honestly my favorite track, and Special was kinda dope too. Even with N9ne's special skill set and unique approach, this project is exactly what I thought it would be as I came into it. And as I said for years, when you become predictable, then the interest in your next work will wane. It's dope that Tech has built an audience that held it down for the long run, but I'm not part of that audience. Definitely a project I think people should listen to once, but not an album that's gonna make my playlist. There were some enjoyable moments, but nothing that I absolutely must have.